welcome. It's Chris Petrie here. Thanks so much for coming by. We're actually creating a beautiful beach scene with ocean waves crashing in and figures at the beach umbrellas. We have some sailboats out here in the distance. We have some white puffy clouds, nice relaxing clouds in the sky. We have all of the fun things you would ever want to create in a seascape painting. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this painting here that we found online, a photo of this painting. I actually printed this out of my printer, so we're going to have this in a printed format in the video. So you'll be watching this. You'll see this painting the whole time on video as we're painting, this watercolor painting. We'll also be using our Prang Oval 16 watercolor set, which is basically our extreme beginner set that we use all the time on my channel. And this palette works absolutely fantastic. We have brushes. We're going to cover everything here on the video. Thanks for coming by. You're going to have a great time learning the watercolor medium. It's fun. Takes time. Just relax. You're going to enjoy the process. It's just a fun process. You learn it as you go. The more you practice, the more time you put in, you're going to get better quicker, but you'll still get there. As long as you're just putting in a little bit of time each week, you're going to learn a lot, and you're going to be watching our videos all the time. Hopefully you're going to subscribe below on the right-hand side. And this way you'll be locked into our channel. You'll be able to see all of our videos. You'll be alerted when our new videos come out each week. We usually make 2 or 3 videos a week. You'll see all my content on my channel. If you do research, you'll see that I have hundreds and hundreds of videos, everything pretty much watercolor. I have extreme beginners series videos, as well as your regular professional artist level paintings, where we're doing pretty much, art that's like, for people that have been painting numbers of years and are already well, advanced in the medium. So whether you're just starting out or you're an old grizzled pro, you never worry. You're going to be here watching the videos. You're going to have plenty of content, lots of fun content here on my channel. Okay, we're going to have a great time. Let's get started. We're going to cover, again, all the steps you need to do to create this wonderful painting. So we'll get started in about maybe 2 seconds, okay? All right. All right, welcome everyone. Chris Petrie here. Thanks for coming by. We're actually going to start working on getting our palette set up. This is an extreme beginner series video, and what we're going to do is, I always mention if it's your first time here, of course, I'm really happy you're here. I'm excited that you're starting with watercolors. So these beginner videos are like perfect to kind of just start out. You kind of see what the process is when we first start out in watercolors. We're using a Prang Oval 16 set, and the great thing is that even though I'm just going to show a quick little demonstration here before we start drawing and painting, how to do a loading up of our colors into our palette, I have a video on this, so you can just type in Chris Petrie Prang Oval 16 palette, and if you type that into the YouTube search window, Chris Petrie Prang Oval 16 watercolor palette, you'll see that I cover all the colors in the palette, how to put the palette together with all the colors in the right spots. But I'll just go over here real quick just so you kind of see my process is when I start out with a new palette, because sometimes I use all my colors and then eventually I start with another fresh palette after maybe 6 months or, so. And let's do this. Let's take our what I did is when the Prang Oval 16 set comes to your house when you order it, and incidentally, I have all my materials down below in the comment section, where you can look up all the materials and the art supplies that I use. I use all of those. Those are my personal art supplies that I use all the time, so they're all really, really good. And they're on they're links to Amazon, which is a great place. I use Amazon all the time. I actually buy 90% of my art supplies from Amazon because it's fast delivery, really excellent prices, and I can find everything in one location, and I don't have to go to different places. I just go to one place, and that's my go-to store for my art supplies. And I have all my links below that are linked to the Amazon site, so you can go there, search out all my materials and art supplies I use, and then you can even from there look around and shop around if you want to have some different colors or a different palette, or you want to purchase a little bit of a different brush or something like that, or brush set. That's fine too, or different paper. But once you get into Amazon, you'll notice you can shop around from there and price, compare and all that good stuff. But in any case, let's just kind of going to show you how I do this here. So these are the 2 bars that come out of the palette. And the colors are all mixed up random when they come with the Prang Oval 16. And what I always do is I always organize my colors warm and cool. So I always take the warm colors and I plug them in the same way I have over here. So I have a picture saved on my phone with all my colors the way I set them up every time the same way. I never change my colors in the order that they're in, because this way I memorize it after 6 months or a year, and then after a while I don't even have to think about it. I kind of always know right where to go to get my colors, and I'm not looking for it. Saves a lot of time and energy doing it that way. And it's no stress. I want to really pay attention on my watercolor paper with my washes and my colors and how fast things are drying and things like that. So if I'm trying to search around, find a color, and I'm putting them in different places all the time, it's almost like I'll spend more time looking for where the color that I need is, and then my paints are going to be drying on the paper, and I won't be able to get a really good result with my watercolors, because watercolors is a fast medium, as you'll know. And you'll learn that watercolor is a quick medium. It's actually, things dry fast a lot of times on the paper, so you don't want to have to be searching around for colors. After a while, again, you'll memorize the order if you keep the order the same way all the time. So I'm just putting all the colors in. All the warm colors are here on the left side. We'll put the brown there. Then we're going to go with the greens, starting to get a little cooler. The greens are are a cooler color, so we'll start these over here. This is a warmer green. It's got more yellow in it, so that's a warm green. And then this is a cooler green. It's starting to get a little more blue in there, in that green. So, okay, great. Wow, we got that first one completed. And again, I have my picture over here, my photograph that I took of one of my videos. So again, if you type in my name, Chris Petrie, and then you type in palette, you'll see I have probably 10 or 15 palette videos. You could look at all of them, watch them, learn all about different palettes. I use fresh, moist tube paint all the time, but I also use my beginner's series paints too as well. This is here is like that Viridian green kind of look. So we're going to put that there. And then over here we have, so you have like a turquoise green here, and then it's starting to get a little more blue here. And then the next blue here is starting to get a little bit cooler. I should say warmer. And then we're starting to get into our purples. And then our black and our white. White and black. So now, perfect. So every time I start out with a new palette, I take out all the paints and then put them in this exact same order, which is really the perfect way to go. You'll memorize your colors after a while, and you won't be worrying about where they are. You'll always kind of just know right where to go. Now we take these, and I like to use double stick tape. So I just take double stick tape. You can find this in any big box. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it in any kind of like big box stores, hardware stores. Even the local supermarkets have double stick tape. So I take double stick tape, and I just want to have these paints secured in my palette. I don't want to have them moving around. So I just peel off my double stick tape like that, and I put just 2 pieces here. It doesn't have to be much. Just like that. And I just take my 2. And I just press them in. And that double stick tape keeps it from things from moving around, but I just have to remember I have to keep it the same way I started with. Yeah, there we go. And I just press it down where the tape is, and there we go. Perfect. So now you have everything secure in there. There's nothing sliding around, moving around. You have everything in the perfect order every time that you put your paints into your palettes. You got to be really, always recall that you might have to take some of your paints and put it out on a piece of paper so you can see, because sometimes these paints, they're dark, and you may not always recognize what color they are. I've been using this Prang palette for over 2 years, probably 2 or 3 years. So I kind of can see the color really easily because I use it so much all the time. But if you're just starting out, you might have to take each of these colors and take a little bit of water. Like you might have to take a little bit of water like this and take each one and just make a little bit of spot on the paper like that as you're going, so you can kind of get the feel for what the color is. And then if you're using this, you can just match it up and you say, oh yeah, I do have the same colors. Yep, one, two, perfect. Yep, there. You get into the purple right there, good. And you'll kind of see, you just do it that way. So you definitely want to get those again in the same exact location every time. And then once we have that, we're good to go. We're ready to actually start drawing and painting. So what I'll do is I'll get ready to find my pencil. Over here in my studio, I have some things I have to organize a little bit here before I start. So let me do that. Let me grab my pencils and my brushes that I'm going to use. I'll put them over here. I'll cover them too. I'll take my pencils out quick and pencils and brushes out quick and just show you kind of what I'm going to use. And then we'll get started with the drawing. Okay, so we're going to start out. I just have a retractable pencil here. This is a Bic, a 0.9 millimeter Bic retractable pencil. And you can buy these in any kind of store, like office supply stores. You can buy them online, of course, on Amazon. I buy them on Amazon. I get a package of like 6 or 10, and these are fantastic. I don't have to worry about a pencil sharpener so much. I just click the top of the pencil, and there's usually about 4 or 5 leads in here, so it lasts a long time. Actually, these last for maybe 6 months to a year each. Just one of these. So I'm going to use that for my pencil, and then the brushes we'll use. And again, these are all in the links below in the description box. All my art supplies. This is a Simply Simmons round brush, synthetic brush. Then I have a few of the. These are Princeton Art and Brush Company synthetic watercolor brushes, and they have flat brushes. They also have round. Different sizes. Also, your Prang Oval 16 set will come with a beautiful round brush. That's all you need to start with. So if you don't even want to bother buying some brushes, you don't have to. This Prang Oval set comes with a great round brush, just like this. And the only thing with this brush is, it's like small to a medium size. So you might have a problem creating a larger painting like this. Not that this is that large, but this is like maybe a 6 by 10 size watercolor paper that we're going to use. So if you do decide you're just going to stick with the Prang palette and the stock brush that it comes with, you might have to create a smaller painting at first. So maybe when you're first starting out, you'll probably create a painting maybe the size like this right here, which is like a 4 by 6 or a 4 by 5 size, because that's, you can kind of see the brush would be able to manage this painting really well. You could get this painting in and it would really go really nicely with a brush this size. But if you're going to do a little bit larger format like this, which is maybe like a 6 by 10, you'll probably need to use a little bit of a larger brush like this. A little bit of a larger round, and you'll probably need a little bit of a larger flat brush too, like this. Or even like this, you can use something large like this for some of the washes. But you'll get the feel for it. But again, if you're just going to use this to start out with a Prang Oval 16 set, you're just going to work in a smaller format. Don't use as a larger paper. Size paper, you just do it with the size that's going to work with your brush that you have. Okay, so now we have taped off our watercolor paper, as you can see here. I'll just go around the paper with my pencil, just so you can kind of see a little better of an outline there. Like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at this painting and notice that it is kind of divided about halfway across the page. Sometimes I like to probably move my horizon line, which would be the edge of the ocean where it meets the sky. I usually like to see that a little bit higher or a little bit lower. I don't really like working on the half too much, splitting that paper in half like that. So I am going to move the ocean maybe a little bit I'm going to say a little bit lower actually. So if this is halfway approximately, so you get your halfway point approximately halfway. You can use a ruler. Yeah, you always want to have a ruler just so you can do some comparison here. Like this is 6 inches, so 3 inches is about halfway. So I have that about right. That's about halfway. And I'm just going to mention that I'm going to move that, and this is about halfway here I can see on this paper for the horizon line of the ocean. I'm going to go a little lower, so I might go 2.5. So I'll make a mark here at 2.5 inches like that. So that's going to be my ocean horizon line. And then what I would do is I'll take a ruler and go across here, and I'll just kind of measure the same over here. That was 2.5 inches. So I'll go here 2.5. Make a mark over here. So now I got a perfect 2.5 up from the bottom up, 2.5 from the bottom up here. 2 hash marks, simple. 2 hash marks. I set my ruler on top of that and do a light pencil line across there, and that's my ocean line there. So the sky is going to be a little larger. And next thing is the beach is pretty much about halfway between the horizon line of the ocean and the bottom. So I'll just do that, another halfway point here and here. And that doesn't have to be perfect. You can measure it if you want, but I'm just going to do it like so, by eye. Like that, just so I have another mark across the paper. And hopefully you can kind of see that I'm making these marks kind of lightly. Maybe I'll just make them a little bit dark here and there so you can kind of see them. Okay, and this one here, like that, the distant ocean. So basically we do have it about almost halfway up to the, so we have a little bit, the halfway point, and we go a little lower. That's our horizon line of the ocean that goes across here. Then here we have where the beach is, the beach sand, and where the ocean waves coming in are meeting the sand, and the people are all here enjoying their beautiful day at the beach. And we have this across here. That's where the sand is, really. Basically the sand starts, and that's right across here, like that. And then once we have that in, we're just going to make a few indications of maybe there's a couple sailboats on the ocean out here. So we'll make a couple just little pyramidal shapes, just like basically a triangle, like that. So I'm thinking you can see that okay, like a triangle. A couple small triangles over here too, the same thing. Maybe there's another one over here, a little bit larger. This one might be a little bit smaller. I might have to make this one a little smaller. It's in the distance, in the far distance of the ocean. So I'll make that one a little smaller, that white sail. And then we have a little bit of a larger white pyramid shape, which is another sail. Like that. And then what we're going to do is, as we come into the closer to the shore in the beach area, we'll start working in our composition with our figures and our beach umbrellas. So over here I see a beach umbrella. And I'm going to do this. I'm just going to make it a pyramid shape again. And then what I'll do is I'll draw it a little bit darker so you can kind of see. I'm just doing a shape like that for an umbrella over here. And then under this umbrella, we'll have some figures, and they're going to be over here. So I'll just draw a head shape and a body shape. Very, very casual, and we're not going to get into too much detail. We'll have another figure over here next to this one here, like this. They're sitting next to each other here on the beach, enjoying a nice day at the beach here. We're going to have a beach towel maybe here. And then coming across, there's another beach umbrella up here, so I'm going to put that one here. This one's a little larger, like this. And then I'll kind of try to draw it a little bit darker so you can see it. So what I'll do is when I draw this first, I'll draw it a little bit darker. And then what I'll do is I'll erase it a little bit right before we start painting. just a little bit, just to kind of, but you could leave dark pencil lines in your paintings too, that's fine. And then underneath this umbrella, there's more figures too as well. So I just kind of make a round head, and then underneath it, like a body shape. And then there's another figure here in a chair, so I make a square shape for the chair, and then a head above the chair, like that. And we make little different shapes like bags and clothes and things, towels, as we go. Might be some duffel bags and backpacks too people bring to the beach. And then over here we have maybe just one person here enjoying getting a suntan or reading a book there. And then over here we have some more people, and they might be lying down. So we have some people that are just relaxing over here. And then over here we have another group of people. They're in a chair. So I have a chair over here. There's a head there in the chair. Another person here sitting. And we maybe have a couple figures standing. And I think that's pretty good. So we have a couple umbrellas. We can make them a little bit larger, like this. And more figures. And then we could take this sand and move it down a little bit, and then we'll make some of these some ocean waves coming in. So I'm going to make some ocean waves coming in like this with some pencil lines, just to give me some indications of some lines going across, some parallel lines. If you don't feel comfortable drawing lines by hand, you could take your ruler and just make some parallel lines across. As long as your ruler is even, you can kind of look at your ruler and see that it's even up and down according to these lines here. Or you can even measure them. You might say to yourself, well, I'm going to make 2 or 3 kind of like lines that are going to look like waves coming in, and I'm going to make one at I'm going to make one at 1.25 inches, and then I'm going to make another one at 1.5 inches, and then I'm going to make another one at 1.75 inches. So you can kind of maybe make 2 or 3 lines, space them out 1/4 inch each, or if you're working with the metric measuring system, you might say, well, I'm going to make this one line here is going to be 3.5 centimeters, I'm sorry, and then 4 centimeters, and then 4.5 centimeters, and you make a little hash mark at each location, and you do it over here too, to keep them straight across, perfectly level across the picture. And then you just line up your 2 hash marks, your dots that you make over here and over here at those measurements you just created. And then you do your lines across there like that. And you get the same effect. Okay, and then over here you might just make a light line, just 1 or 2. Very freely though. You could make this one a little wavier. It doesn't have to be as exact if you don't want. But basically we're just going to make a consecutive bit of lines that just come down the page like this with different variations of the blue ocean colors like this. And we're going to mix all the colors in there, so you're going to have a lot of interesting colors with your ocean coming in. As the waves are coming in, you're going to see different colors of the ocean and the waves. Some of the white water that's bubbling up on the tops of the waves. You're going to see some of that. And then once we get up here in the sky, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to mix some beautiful different colors up here in the sky. We're just going to put a couple pencil lines up here to indicate a couple of clouds. We're going to have a few fluffy clouds in the sky, but we're going to leave it mostly blue sky. and we'll see how it goes. But so far, we're really doing really fine here. We have a few umbrellas, we have our figures in, we have a couple sailboats in the ocean, we have our waves coming in. We figured out how to get some nice, really good level lines across the page using a ruler, so that we don't have to have lines going crisscrossing or looking kind of funny. We just take our time, we measure, make some hash marks, even hash marks. You know, we go, like I said before, you can come up and say, all right, I want to go out from the bottom up, I want to go inch and a half. Inch and a half here, I make a hash mark. Then I want to go up with another line at 1 3/4. Here, that's another line. Then I want to go up 2 inches. There. And then you do the same thing over here and make the hash marks over here the same way you did over there, same measurements. And then you line those lines up across your painting. And this way you have nice, beautiful, even lines across that you're just going to put light lines across enough that you can see them while you're painting, but I'm making them darker so you can see what I'm doing here on my paper. Otherwise, I would have went a little bit lighter. I don't think I would have drew my lines as dark as I did here. But that's the reason why I do make those darker lines here, so you can see what I'm doing. And all right, let's take a quick break. We're going to have some fun now. We're going to mix up some really beautiful colors for the sky and the ocean. We're going to create this with the glazing technique, which means we're going to kind of get a really good first light wash across the whole painting as we go. And then once we're done with that, we'll go over and do some, once it's dry 100%, then we'll go over and do some darker bits of washes, and we'll do the figures too once it's dry, that first wash. So let's get ready. We'll just get ourselves relaxed for 5-10 minutes, and we'll come back. And because we did a lot of work on our drawing, and you can even split your drawing up in 2 sessions. You might work 10, 15, 20 minutes on the first part of your drawing, maybe where you're doing a few of the umbrellas and a few figures. Take a break for 5-10 minutes, stretch, relax, have some, grab a drink, a refreshment, come back, do a few more figures for another 15, 20 minutes. Then after that, maybe a third session, you come in and you do, another 15, 20 minutes. Then you come back and you do your ocean lines. Then your drawing is pretty much all complete. And you've got through it in a really organized fashion, and you took some breaks so you're not fatiguing as you're going. And then once that's completed, then we're going to now go through the process of doing maybe a 2 and 3 step process of the washes on the paper. And it'll be the same thing. We'll get that first light wash on, as you see in just a second. We let that dry 100%. Got to let that dry so that when we go over for our second wash on top of that, the first one has to be 100% dry. Second wash, we go over the top, and we'll do the darker bits of, you can see the darker washes here in this painting. So that's what we're going to do on the second wash. And then once that's sort of dried, then, or 90% dry, then we can go in and just do our final little bits of darks and things like that for our figures and so forth. And some of the other little tiny bits of darks you'll see in the ocean here, we can do those last. Okay, all right, so we have a whole plan here of action as we're going. If we're a beginner artist, we need to do things methodically with a process. Then once you kind of have done this for a year or two, well, then you're not even really going to have to worry too much about all this strict going step by step. And, once you get used to it, you'll just it'll flow for you the whole way through. But when you first start, it's good to get a good, flow going of a good solid process of doing things step by step as we're doing. Okay. All right. We'll be right back. Okay, so now we're going to get started with the washes. This is the real fun part. Everyone always looks forward to the painting, don't we? That's the real most interesting part, because we get to see all the colors mixing and going onto the paper, and everything's kind of just, mixing and mingling together on the paper. And all of a sudden at the end, when we're done after about an hour of painting, we see this beautiful amalgamation of colors and washes and values and little bits of interesting colors for our figures. It all comes together and looks really fantastic. Watercolor is a beautiful medium. So now what I'm doing is, I'm just over here, I have my water container with fresh clean water. Over to my right here, I always usually have either a paper towel or a tissue on hand. So sometimes I'll just tear a tissue in half, and I'll keep a tissue in my hand like this, just so sometimes I like to take a little bit of water and dry off a little bit of water on my brush before I go into my paints. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to start thinking about the colors. We're going to use the beautiful blues of the sky So I'll start mixing my blue over here. We'll get some blue mix in here, like this. Then we'll get some of the darker blue here. So what we're going to want to do is get a blend of some of these really beautiful blues here that we have. But it's going to be a little bit of a lighter wash. We're not going to go too dark. We want to leave it somewhat light, because that first wash is going to be a nice, beautiful, lighter wash. And we're going to add a little purple into that too. Maybe we'll put some purple up here. And then we'll also mix in a little bit of green here too. Just a little bit of purple and green to mix in with that sky. But I think we're going to stick with mostly the blues here for the sky, and even the ocean here too. And the thing is, I will leave a little bit of white paper. You'll notice I'm going to leave a couple bits of white paper for some ocean waves, and I'm going to paint around some of the umbrellas too. So I'm going to probably paint around these two umbrellas and a few light spots on the ocean area for some waves crashing in. So other than that, I'm going to have everything with the blue wash, and then we'll leave the beach sand white paper too. So a little bit of a fun, interesting tidbit of information you can do when you're painting. If you know you want to leave all your beach sand white paper, just put a very light W on it in about 2 or 3 places, light enough that only you can see it. And this way, when you're painting, you'll go, oh, I don't want to cover this white area of sand in the foreground right here. And if you have that W there on your paper, you'll remember not to paint with the blue sky wash into your beach sand. And also, too, you might put a little W in some of your areas of your waves crashing in. So leave some white stripes in your ocean area for the waves crashing in. So you leave some white paper there, and you put those W's in there, and it's no problem, because you're going to paint around the paint around those spots. And then once everything dries, you can just erase the W's out of the white paper areas, because you haven't covered over it with any paint. Sometimes it is hard to lift up pencil lines if you've painted over them, but you can usually get some of it off anyway, just in case. But let's do this. Let's get a little bit of a light wash of clean water on the paper first up here in the sky. And you don't have to flood the paper too much, just a little bit of damp water on the sky area, and then a little bit in the ocean area. But I wouldn't go over the areas that you left with the white, with the W. So if you leave areas that say W, that means you don't want to put any damp water, clean water on there, and you don't want to put any paint on there either. So those are the 2 things we have to remember. If not, don't worry about it. If you feel like trying to leave some of your white paper is too much, like in the water areas, then don't worry about it. But you definitely want to leave your beach sand white over here, and your umbrellas too. And a way you can do that is you can always just put a W too as well in your umbrellas, lightly, like that. All right, so now we have the paper damp with fresh, clean water up here. And I add just a touch more water all the way at the top, but that's it. Just holding up there. Then I go in and we just give it that light, beautiful. Put some of the light blue up top. Some of that medium blue too. Mix the 2 together. The medium blue and the light blue. Have a fun time with it. Just lightly start infusing. Leave some white clouds. We said we're going to leave a couple white fluffy clouds, so maybe leave a couple spots. If you paint over and you say, oh, I want a cloud in there, no problem. You can actually take your tissue or your paper towel quickly and just do a little quick blot like that, and you have a white cloud right there. Okay, and that's really how we do this first light wash. Kind of like adding that, if you can imagine, adding that light little bit, not too much, but just a little bit of that light wash of clean, fresh, clean water lightly on that paper what it does is it actually makes the paint just blend and move around beautifully for you, so that you don't have to worry about doing too much work to the sky, actually the sky wash itself. You just put some paint on there and you'd be amazed at how much the actual paint does all the work, and the water does all the work. Now I go in with a little bit of a darker purple with that little bit of green mixture, and I go across the sky like that with a little bit of that mixture. You can kind of see how it's a little bit darker here, a little bit lighter up here. So that's why I did that little bit of purple and greenish color across here along where the ocean and the sky meet together here. And then from that point, we can just, I'm painting around that one sailboat there, but I'm going in with more blue. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to add some more blue that we mixed up before over here, just that. And then you'll see I do leave, and now I'm using the if you can imagine, I'm using the point of my flat brush here. You could switch over to your Prang Oval 16 brush and then start using that, because now we're going to start to get into some of these waves and things. So it'd be probably better off if we paint around those sailboats here like that, and also we start to do a little bit of the we do some of these lines like this with the water. And I just rest my hand on the paper like that. And once I rest my hand on the paper, on the table, then I can get more accurate lines. And I can just sort of swing my brush like that. And then over here I see the W, so maybe I'll leave a little bit of white paper there. I'll leave it there too. Just to remember to leave some white paper. That's all I want to do. And again, you can add more purple and blue, kind of a mix with a little bit of green. You can add a little bit of the green there. You can add some of that turquoise color. That would probably look kind of nice, that turquoise color. You can mix that in a little here and there. Notice I'm painting around my umbrellas, like that. And as I paint around the umbrellas, I realize I'm really coming to the conclusion now of my water. So I've got my sky, we've got our sky completed. Look at how great that looks. We've got our sky completed. And we kept painting on down with our smaller round brush here, which is our Prang Oval 16 brush. And we carefully just use more parallel lines going across like this. You can imagine, you see those lines going across. We left that white, we left that white paper in there. We put those little W's in there. I know you can't see them. I didn't want to make them too dark, but I did put a very, very barely visible W that only I can see here on my side of things. But on your side of things, over there where you're painting, in your studio, in your house, in your basement, your living room, your kitchen, wherever you're painting, you leave that little W on your paper to remember to leave a few of these white little crashing waves coming in. And you'll really, you put a little bit of an angle on it like that. And then you are all set. You have your first wash completed, and that's it. You might add a really, really tiny, I would grab a little bit of blue like this, and then make it very, very light, like almost just a tiny bit of color. And you could put a little bit of tiny bit of color in some of these areas where there might be shadows under the umbrellas with that little bit of blue. And there might be a few other little small spots. You can just put a little bit of that super light blue just so you have a touch of that color in the sand, so that it ties the whole painting together. Because if you can imagine, if you just made all blue color here, blue and green that we've used in purple up here, and you don't have any at all in the sand, it might look a little bit like it's not harmonized, the whole painting. It might look almost like the bottom portion of the painting is like a separate painting, or something's missing out of it. So you will see a little bit of that blue color mixed in the sand, just a tiny bit. And that's why I just added a little bit, as you can see. And that's it. Okay, so we have our first wash done. Now this is the part I always remember to, and I just do a little bit of blotting sometimes too. And this is the part I always mention. Now you have to let this dry 100%. If you want to use a blow dryer, that's fantastic. You can use a blow dryer right now, and within 5 minutes, this will all be 100% dry, and then you'll be able to just keep working on the next washes that we're going to do on top of this. But if you don't want to use a blow dryer, or you're not, you want to let it dry naturally, because it probably will look a little better if it dries naturally over like the next hour or two. So you can let it dry a couple hours. Might look a little better. But if you use a blow dryer, I don't think it's going to be too noticeable, to be honest with you, if you use a blow dryer. So I think it's fine to use that. Use the blow dryer. You dry this all off in 5 minutes. Take a break for maybe 5-10 minutes, come back, and then we'll finish up the darker washes on top of this first wash. Okay? All right. We'll be right back. Okay, we are almost completed. We're almost like, we're 75% of the way done here. And it's exciting. Now we're going to do those final bits of colors to the painting that are going to really bring everything all together, the darker darks. So right now you can imagine we have our lightest lights in the painting. And now we're going to pretty much be putting in like medium tonal values and dark tonal values into the painting, which are going to just, create the illusion of three-dimensional quality. So our lighter colors are obviously in the far distance. And then our darker colors are closest in the foreground. So we have a real nice, beautiful three-dimensional quality to this painting that we've created already with our lighter washes and our beautiful light color sky. And we have some clouds in there in the sky, and we have some beautiful white waves here too, and the waves crashing in on the ocean, so the coast area here as we're painting this beach and coastal scene in the ocean. So let's continue on. Now what we can do is I usually use a kneaded eraser, and kneaded erasers are they're very, very pliable. You can kind of see I can kind of mold them around and things like this. You can shape them and mold them if you want to make like a little bit of a point to them. You can do that. But what's great about kneaded erasers are, and I use the Faber-Castell kneaded erasers, and they're in the list below that I have in the comment section for my art supplies. They don't make crumbs at all. You definitely don't want to make any kind of crumbs on your watercolor paper when you're painting and drawing. So I can now lift up those W's that we created in the beginning. They come right off the paper like that. But this paint is 100% dry now. I used a blow dryer, and now this paper is completely flat like it was when we first started. Always remember, I'm using block paper, which is gummed block paper. If I can show you a little bit, just again, I have these in the description box below, and gum paper comes in all types of brands and qualities. So you don't have, if you can use gum paper, it's really nice. It's like a block of paper, and all of the pages are gummed together around all four sides. Can you see that? How the paper is gummed, all the sheets of paper are all gummed together with a glue around all of the sides of the pad of paper, except for this one spot here. This is where you peel it off when you're done painting. But what this gum block does is, when you put your first wash on, like we just did with the really, really lots of water and color, once you blow dry it and it dries 100%, the paper goes back to a completely flat, tight paper. Flat, no buckles. You'll notice that when you put these first washes on, as you did, the paper gets buckled. And the reason why we say we want to let this dry 100% is so now when we come back in and do our secondary washes and finish up our painting, we don't want to be trying to paint with buckles in the paper, and our brush is going to be going over those bumps and going off course. We want to make sure we have our flat paper back again, nice and tight. Now the other thing you can do is, if you're going to work and you don't have gum paper like this, if you can't find gum block paper that you like or you want to use, that's fine. You just would want to really tape the outer edges of your paper really well. And that should be pretty much the same way. If you can tape your paper down to a board, like a masonite board, or I guess you could tape it down to a table if you don't mind getting a little bit of tape on your table, or a little bit of paint splashes on your table if you're working on maybe some sort of a wooden table or a Formica table, something like that. But whatever you work, or a glass table. Some people like to work on a glass top table. But as long as you tape everything down, your paper down all the way around all four edges, it should go back to a nice flat bit of paper once you have dried everything off with a blow dryer, or if you let it dry for 2-3 hours. I thought that would be important to kind of mention this. So we're pretty much, I'm going to erase off the W's off of the umbrellas that I created. And that's it. We're all set to come in and do our second washes now. What I'll do is I'm going to again reference all of this from here down to here. I'm going to reference these figures and the colors. I might want to use, I'm going to use my Da Vinci number 5 travel brush. These travel brushes, incidentally, are fantastic. You spin them off. You could put them in a duffel bag, purse, shirt pocket when you're done painting. If you're going to paint outdoors a little bit, maybe sometimes. You know, if you like to bring your paints out when you travel, weekend getaways, vacation, you go to your, maybe some family, you visit family or friends or something, and you want to do a little bit of watercolor painting. You have these travel brushes. They're really great. So you just, these are made by Da Vinci, and they have a hole in the top, so you can just, again, rinse off your brush, put it together like that, and you can put it in a shirt pocket, purse, pocketbook, duffel bag, backpack, and it dries naturally, so you don't have to worry about it, and the hairs won't get damaged because it's concealed inside the tube. And when you want to paint again, you just take it out, put it together, and then you have your brush. So these, I use these all the time. These are great, the Da Vinci travel brushes. And what we'll do is we'll take this brush, and what we'll do is we'll mix up some flesh tones for the figures. So that's going to be a little bit of red and orange and yellow, maybe. Let's come over here. We'll do it. A little bit of orange. And another thing you can do if you don't want your colors beading up on your palette like this, we had one of our subscribers mentioned one of our artist friends on YouTube mentioned in the description, in the comment sections, how you could take a little tiny bit of toothpaste, just a little tiny bit of toothpaste, and you can add some water to the toothpaste and kind of just gently wash your palette out with a little bit of toothpaste, and it kind of roughens up the palette so that the water won't beat up in puddles like this. It'll naturally get that way after maybe a couple months of using your palette. But if you want to do it the quick way and you don't want to have these problems where your paint is beating up like it is right now, you can kind of see how it's beating up and making these kind of puddles. You could use that little bit of toothpaste, and that does work good. I've used that method myself. Okay, so we have yellow, darker orange, a little bit of red. So we just want to make a good flesh color. That looks like a pretty good flesh color. This is where I would use a little bit of paper towel or tissue. And so I'm going to have a tissue in my hand at all times as I'm painting, like this. And I'm just going to look down here and then just start working. I'm right-handed, so if you can imagine, if you're right-handed, you're going to work your paints left to right like this. If you're left-handed, then you're going to want to work this way. You'll have your tissue in this hand, and your left hand you're going to paint, and you're going to start over here and do your figures and paint across your painting this way. This way you don't lean into your paints. So if I'm right-handed like this, and I start over here with some figures over here, and then I go over here to paint, I'm going to be leaning into my paints. So always remember, a great rule of thumb is if you're just starting out painting in watercolor, work left to right in your paintings if you're right-handed. So you usually want to start over here and work this way. Obviously, you're doing your sky wash. You don't have to worry about it. You're just putting, you're throwing on the paint, and not so important. But if you're doing some of these details like we're doing now, the figures, the umbrellas, some of the more details in the ocean water, best to sort of start on the left and work to the right if you're right-handed. And again, if you're left-handed, you just switch that process around. You want to start over here and work this way. And it starts to dry as you're working. So then you're kind of in really good shape as you go. All right, so now I'm going to look down here. I'm going to reference all these down here, these figures. So I'm going to put some flesh tones there. And a little, maybe an arm over here. Maybe a leg over here. You can just kind of have fun. This is kind of a little bit, the figures are so small in this painting that you can kind of just have a great time and just, you know, we're going to put a head here. Maybe we're going to use some brown over here, some darker brown and a little bit of blue. So darker brown and blue. And we'll make some hair. So not everything's going to be flesh color. You're going to have maybe some people with some darker hair like that, sitting in a chair. And we'll come over here, do the same thing. This person might be looking back at us or something. Looking over here, maybe there's a small child here playing, and she's looking, or he's looking back and talking to the child, so you might see some of the flesh tones there. And then we have a couple more figures over here. And there's a reclining figure there, so you have their whole body and their head there lying across that way. And then over here too, some more figures there. And some people are going to have on different color clothing. You can kind of make up your own color selections, as far as some people might be wearing a blue. Maybe there's a blue chair. Like that. So here's where you can start to put in some exciting colors if you want to. And then maybe over here, maybe there's a purplish chair there. Maybe some purple striped chair. Like that. So you can put in little interesting jewels of colors here and have fun with it. You know, since these are such small details, you know, you can add some really cool, interesting colors, exciting colors, vibrant colors, high chroma colors. Maybe we'll have a yellow shirt over here somewhere. Yeah, this will be good. Yellow shirt there. Okay, so you see that we're coming along nicely here. And this is really your final parts of the painting. You're just going to kind of make some decisions on what kind of colors you're going to use. And I'm referencing down here somewhat. So this is going to be some blue and brown. I'll mix a little bit of brown with the blue over here, just so that not everything is really too exciting as far as colors go. So there's some shadows, shadowing underneath here, some shadows there. And the sunlight's coming from in front of us here somewhat, so you'll see the shadows like this in the sand. A little bit of purple is always good with some shadowing. Like that. So I am putting some shadows there on the sand for the umbrella. I use a little bit of purple and some of that flesh color for the shadow on the umbrellas. This umbrella is a little more colorful with some yellow some green, yellow, green, a little more yellow, orange over there. So you create your colors again. I would use, this, it looks good. This reference photo we have looks fine. And then I'll add some of that yellow up here. Just a little tiny bit of yellow. I don't want to get too carried away with too much color now. But I'm going to use some of that flesh tone for the sand. And I'm going to use some of the yellow for the sand too as well. So I'm going to use some of this lemony yellow and some of this flesh tone for the sand colors. And I think that'll be it. We'll be really in great shape. So I'll use the lemony yellow first. I'm not going to put it everywhere, but I am going to put it here and there. And like that. And then some of that flesh tone over here. I'm using rough paper, so that rough paper can really enhance the feeling of the sand, that rough texture of the sand. I'm using Arches rough paper. And again, I'm going to kind of leave this and I'll blot up some of that color with a tissue. Add in a little more yellow. And I think subtlety is the kind of the key here. Not being too overboard with what we're doing here, like adding too much color. You can always go a little darker. So what you can kind of see is I'm going lighter, and I'll add a little bit of that gold, a little bit of that yellow, just a tiny bit to the ocean. You can always go a little darker with your colors in your sand if you want. So once it dries, you can let it dry again for about an hour or two, or you use your blow dryer. A little bit of brown maybe in there, a little brown color. A couple of bits of brown like that. Yellow again. Could blot up a little bit. I think that looks good. And then let's just get a little bit of darks for the ocean. We can kind of see a little bit of that darker blue in the deeper ocean area there. So I'm just going to grab some of that darker blue right here. And I'm going to do a little darker blue over here. But I'm not going to paint one stripe all the way across. I'm going to kind of do a little bit here. And then I'll pick up a little bit over here. And maybe a little bit there. Like that. Then I'll rinse off my brush. Dry off a little bit of the paint so there's not too much on there. Too much water on there. And then I'll just do that. Blend that in a little bit. All right, I think that's looking really, really good. Let's see, I could go a little darker, I think, there. Maybe a little bit of that green color, too. Green and blue. Couple of spots. Kind of looks interesting with a few areas where it's a little darker, a little lighter, like that. Maybe a few darker bits there. Underneath those bits of white. So you can make a little bit of a darker wash. The blue and the green underneath the waves coming in, the white crashing waves coming in. That gives it a little more dynamics to it. And I think that is really looking fine. We can take a little bit of blue and splash on a little bit of sand. Careful with your splashing. If you don't feel comfortable splashing, you don't have to do it. I usually just do a little bit on the sand area. And there's a couple people in the water too. I meant to put a few people in there in the water, so we'll put a little bit of the flesh tones there. But we would let that dry at this point. So if you want to have some figures in your water, you would let it dry a little bit. I'm just going to try to finish up the painting, so I'm going to have some figures in there just a little bit. And then the last thing I would do is you just have a little bit of fun. You can have some titanium white like this. You could take some titanium white, and then you would take a little bit of yellow and flesh tone, almost like a yellowish, even a little bit of brown and yellow, just to make it a little bit like a warm kind of color, a little bit of a warm bit of color. And you would put that in the top of your titanium white, maybe even a little bit of orange. That'll warm up the white, because titanium white's like stark white. So if you add a little bit of that orangey or a little bit of yellow, it'll give it a little bit of a warmth feeling, like there's this warm, sunny highlights. Then you could take that, and we have our tissue. We dry off a little bit of that on the tissue. We don't want to have too much white, sort of. And then you can put a few dots where the people swimming, like the tops of the heads of the people swimming. We had the sailboat here in the distance. We wanted to put in the sailboat there. Doesn't that look good? Now we put that sailboat out there like that, even though it's small. And we can zoom in a little bit too. Let me see if I can zoom in while we're doing these details. So we're going to do the sailboat out here. And then this sailboat is over here too as well. Like this. You could put a couple little bits of, looks like splashes of water, foam and things. Just a little bit though. We would never want to spend too much time with details like this, only a little bit. And if you find that your paint has too much color in it, like your white, your titanium white, if it has too much like warmer tint in there, you can just take a little bit of the paint off the tube of paint and put it onto the tissue, and then put that tissue to the side, grab another fresh tissue. Sometimes I'll make my paint a little bit too much color in there. And again, we'll do the heads here on the that looks good. And oh, I wanted to do this. You can kind of see how some of these clouds are. So we could put a little bit of that white paint in the sky and just kind of and we're going to put a little bit of white paint there on the sky. Wash. A little tiny bit though, not too much. Like that. Then we could rinse off our brush with fresh clean water, dry off a little bit of the water on the tissue, and then you can just tap on some water onto that white so that they look like kind of clouds blending into the sky. Like that. Have fun with it, kind of just tap along there. Nothing too serious about it. We're just having some of them fluffy white clouds mixed in with a little bit of that white paint. With a damp brush and with fresh clean water. And that gives us the feeling of those beautiful fluffy clouds there in the sky. Just like we have in the photo below, some of them beautiful clouds. And I think we have a completed painting. This looks fine. And I hope you'll try this numerous times. You know, you could even do a little more clouds, maybe a few over here. Get a little more paint on the brush like this. And maybe there's a few small distant clouds like this in the far distance. Some of that white paint, but not too much. Always remember, sometimes too many details can really ruin a painting quickly, so that's why. But I just wanted to show you, you could do a couple more far distant clouds that are all the way in the far away. These are larger because these are closer to us. The higher up the sky is, it's closer to us, and then the further in the distance the sky is, that's where it's further out, closer to the ocean. So that's why these would be a little bit smaller and thinner, these clouds. They're just like smaller clouds on the horizon. Like that. And then usually they blend in a little bit. The bottoms of them are a little bit more darker. You could add a little shadow under them with some purple and blue. Purple, blue, a little bit of flesh tone even too, to make them a little bit grayish color. But again, I don't want to go too overboard here and wind up making funny looking marks on there. They're supposed to be in the distance, so those should be even lighter and very much like barely visible. So that's why I'm going to blot them up now, carefully. But just to kind of show you, you do have options as you're painting. And All right, thanks for painting with me. We had a fun time. We went through all the steps that you need to create a beautiful, wonderful composition like this, a beautiful seascape and beach painting. We started out with our pencil drawing, doing some layouts, some hash marks. We then did our light wash to cover the whole painting for the most part. And then the next thing was to get those darker washes in with our figures, shadowing, and then our final little bits now of some darker darks for highlights, or I should say darker darks to create the more depth in the painting with more darks and lights to give it a really nice three-dimensional quality. And then we're pretty much all set now. Let's put it in a frame. If it comes out really good, put your paintings in a frame. If you really pin them up on the wall, in your studio, in your house, on the refrigerator, when your paintings come out really well and you're very happy with them, put them up on the wall, share them. Maybe you're going to give them as a gift to someone. Make it. So all in all, let's have a lot of fun. Let's keep enjoying the process of drawing and painting in watercolor and following all the steps along the way that we do here on our Extreme Beginner series. So if you're, again, just starting out in watercolor, or if you just have been painting maybe, a couple months or so, keep coming back to the Extreme Beginner series videos. And as well, watch the other videos that we have on my channel. All the information that you can learn is great. You'll be just benefiting from everything that we do here as we go. And we'll see you on the next video. Again, happy painting, everybody. Enjoy the journey of watercolor. It's really fun. And we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.